Hi, I'm Rick Conlow. I'm glad you're here. We're going to talk about how to plan to win with your team. Now, that's what you want to do, isn't it? Our research in our organization at WCW Partners, we found that 2/3 of managers don't have goals and plans. Now, we've worked with over 300,000 managers, and though that's the detail we found. I mean, that's really ridiculous, isn't it? Came across a cartoon, and it's a group of generals sitting at a long table, and the lead general at the end says to the others, "We need to switch to plan B." And one of the other generals a little further down the table said, "We had a plan A?" Unfortunately, it's like that, it seems, in organizations today. Or at least the plan is confusing, ambiguous, multiple priorities, conflicting priorities, changing all the time. Can you relate to that? Now, I was a manager in organizations just like you. I had up to 10 direct reports, 15 years inside 3 different companies. And you know what? I saw those things happen. What is the plan? What is most important to us? What do we need to get accomplished? Now, in one organization, it was simple, sell something. But in others, it was a little more confusing than that. And so as we begin to talk about these plans, keep this quote in mind. Small things done consistently in strategic places creates major impact. The difference between winning and losing can often be very slight. Peter Drucker said that strategic planning is crucial, but plans are often worthless. What did he mean by that? What he meant is that things change. You have to have planning that's fluid, and that sometimes what we think we need to do isn't the most important thing to do, but it's the thinking process. Getting people together and talking about what our challenges are, what our problems are. That's where the power is. And that's often where managers make their mistakes, especially in the middle of an organization, the middle management group. But we've seen it at all levels. And so we're going to look at 3 levels of planning. We'll look at team planning, so with the direct reports that you are responsible for. We'll look at planning with each individual employee, and then your own personal plan. You've got to take a look at that as well. Team planning. The team trumps the individual. In other words, a team that's working together, committed to the same game plan, and has that focus is much more potent and powerful than all the individuals added up together. That's what we're after. And so the key to this whole process is listen to your employees, then act on their input. That's missing today in organizations. This is a revolutionary thought, only because it isn't done that often. Most of the time, and check me if I'm wrong, in the companies you've worked with, the plans come from on high, and they're pushed down through the organization, and then you have to do it. You don't have a whole lot of input into it. Maybe a little bit, but not a whole lot. Instead of the plan starting down here and working its way up with some guidance for the overall vision of the company. That's why employee engagement is so poor today. 87% of employees are disengaged. They're only going to work to get the paycheck. They're not bringing their best stuff. They're leaving it at home. So a perfect plan, poorly executed, is worthless. A good plan executed well is priceless. And what we want to build is a good plan with our team. So let's talk about the details of the team planning. Really what this means is end of the year, the 4th quarter, whatever that is for your company, you get your team together in a meeting, and that meeting usually needs to take 1 to 2 days. And you go through a process of thinking about what your responsibilities are and your accountabilities and your priorities. You talk about, so how did we do this year? What was our strengths? What were areas we need to improve? What we need to do differently or better? Those are the guts of it. Now, you may ask other questions. How are we relating to other departments? What do we expect from them? What problems do we have with them? What about our competition? What are they doing? What about the marketplace? What changes are going on? What has the company said overall that we need to be focusing on? They may not be completed with the company executive strategic plan yet, but you still need to be thinking about this ahead of time. And by the way, I always say this, be a step ahead of your manager. Get your planning done before he asks for it. Now, you got to do a little homework and make sure that you're focusing your plan around some of the key initiatives that people are talking about in the company. But at least do your thinking ahead of time. Why? Because it shows initiative. So you get your team together in that 1 to 2 days of planning, or you break it down into half days over a period of time, and you ask questions. You get their input. You brainstorm together. You go through the process. You get everybody involved. Small group, partners, questionnaire, survey, a variety of tools. One of the things you will need to learn as a leader, how to facilitate a good meeting. If you go on our blog, you'll find some good information in that. You'll find some in our book, Superstar Leadership. Use that information to develop your facilitation skills, the process about how to have a good meeting, and then how to focus it on good content. That's what you need to learn to do. So you build a game plan, and at the end of the meeting, you summarize it into 1 to 2 pages with 3 to 5 key goals and some action steps. 1 to 2 pages long. Wow! Now, you may come back to it and review it again a few days later, maybe make some tweaks, but that's your game plan, and then you talk to your manager about it and get your manager's thoughts and ideas on it and review it. By the way, I got 2 jobs by putting a game plan ahead of time and used it in an interview, and that's what separated me from everybody else, even those who were more educated than me, to get that job. Because I showed initiative. I showed some thinking about what it was this place. And that's exactly what we're doing here and why you want to go to your manager. You also share this plan then with your employees. Now, part of the homework for your direct reports coming to the meeting is to be thinking about, if they have employees reporting to them, asking them for some input. What do they think? So that we've got input all the way up to you, and then that all comes out in the team planning session. Then on a regular basis throughout the year, you review results. They would be done quarterly usually. But then monthly, of course, you're sharing progress on the goals as well in your team meetings. So that follow-up is important, and the regular updates are important. The sharing with your manager is important. The team input and asking for their involvement is important, because what it builds is engagement. It builds buy-in. It builds commitment. It builds motivation. It builds want to. They want to win. Because why? It's their plan too. It's not just yours. That's the power. Now, the next step you take then is you do individual employee planning. And what does that mean is each person in your team, you sit down with them one-on-one, and they do the same. If you've got managers reporting to you, they do the same with their team, and they talk about, now here's the departmental plan. What are your goals? What are your priorities? What went well for you this year? What were some of the challenges you had this year? What are your strengths? What are some areas you need to improve? What are some goals and action steps you need to have? And you build an individual plan for each employee. 1 page summarizing all the information. Then on a regular basis, through a coaching process, usually it's a couple times a month, once a month, you sit down with them and review their progress. How's it going? What are you doing well? Those kinds of things. And so you go through that with them. The 4 key questions are their priority goals, their strengths, what they need to improve, and an action plan that they can track throughout the year. By the way, this is the beginning of good performance management. Now, all companies have some kind of process. Follow that process, but make it better by zeroing in on these 4 questions and having regular communication about it. Because what will happen is it strengthens the relationship, it enhances trust, it elevates their commitment and buy-in to what you're working on, and it improves communication, and that's all part of engagement. And then the bottom line, of course, is they will improve their performance. So you coach to that throughout the year on a regular basis. I know a manager in Edmonton. He started out, he was kind of like an open book. He hadn't been to a lot of training and help, and I was working with this company. And his name is Donovan, and he just took this information, having a team plan, do an individual plan, following it up with coaching. He took it, he did it to the nth degree. He was genuine. He cared about his team's success. And boom, he got 3 promotions and worked his way up fast in that organization, bypassing others who had been there a lot longer. Why? Because his team performed better. That's the payoff here. You got a team plan and an individual plan, they start performing better. Because they own it. That's where ownership comes from. So then, you got to have personal planning. Personal planning is important too. You have to think about, what do you want in all of this? And that really is 2 parts. One is for your family, and one is for your career. So you want to dig into both of those areas and come up with some goals and plans to be able to do that. Now, the reason I emphasize this is that we need to be clear on what we want and how we're going to work with our team, not only to help them succeed at what they want, and we learn that through their individual planning, but our planning, see, needs to coincide with that. So it's a win-win for the team, and it's a win-win for you. And one of the key things I want to mention in this is, look, we've got to dream bigger. We need to think bigger. If you can dream it, you can do it. And if you can believe it, you can receive it. So you have to work at it. See, this isn't just about the status quo. This is about accelerating results, about being all you can be in your life and in your career. One of the key things that's important in this is to keep learning. If as a leader you keep learning, you will succeed and lead more effectively. As I mentioned, I've attended over 100 different seminars. And in those programs over my 15-year career inside organizations, I got 5 promotions because I was learning things others didn't learn. And that was kind of part of a personal plan to help me be even more effective at what I do. So that's one of the key elements about being successful, is continue to learn and grow and develop in what you do. That's the reason for the personal plan. I read this story about Alberto Paganini, and he was a great violin player, and he was given a concert. And the crowd was loving it because he was a master. And lo and behold, boing, one of the strings broke. The crowd went, oh! He kept playing. And as he played, boing, the second string broke. The crowd's going, can't believe this. A little sweat rolled down Paganini's head. And lo and behold, as he was playing, boing, the third string breaks. Remember, there's only 4 in a violin. But he continues the piece and finish it. The crowd stands and roars their appreciation. Paganini steps forward on the stage, wipes his brow, pulls back the dangling strings on his violin and says, Paganini, on one string. Then he plays a piece of music more beautiful than the one they had just heard. In fact, they had never heard it before because he made it up on the spot. And when I read that story, I thought, wow, that's just like leadership. You got a plan. Everything's going well. And then what happens? Boing, a problem comes up. Boing, another problem comes up. Boing, another problem comes up. But what did Paganini do? He finished the piece anyway. He kept playing. Why? Because he had commitment. His team had commitment. They were able to dance. The plan was fluid. They were working through it all the time. They knew what they needed to do. See, he kept playing. That's what we do. That's what we need to do, and we will do. And then what did Paganini do at the end? He innovated. He did even better. And that's what this kind of process helps us do. I have this dream that soars on golden wings. I visualize your achievements and your legacy that sings. I do not know all about your awesome goals or your persistent efforts to raise the bar. I only know you can be the best, a superstar. Thank you for coming.
Come on and let the good time roll. We gonna stay here till we soothe our souls. If it take all night long, one more time. Come on and let the good time